All right. Hi, everybody. So for those of you who don't know, we're the Plot Twist Bookshop in South Charleston, West Virginia. This is our very first book club meeting. There's about 10 or so of us here. I don't think you can see everybody, Dinah, but a few people.
Now I can. Hi. Oh, someone's.
We got a pink lady neckerchief.
I was just going to say, I see a pink lady back there.
And then we have some more folks on Zoom.
Cool.
We're here to talk about, we've been reading all month, your novel, The Real True Hollywood Story of Jackie Gold. I'll kick us off with a question. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, many years ago, when I was on Empty Nest, which is a series I did a long time ago, the paparazzi, then we didn't have, TMZ and cell phones and, social media and all that stuff. We had the tabloids and the Inquirer, the Star Magazine, and that's where all the gossip came from. And so, they used to print silly stories about me or my boyfriends, or, and it was pretty harmless. I mean, back when I was a kid, my mother is an actress, is an actress. She's still alive, Lee Grant. And when I was a kid, they were even printing stories about her. So this was just like part of the business. Then one day, right after my first child was born, this guy showed up at my door from the Inquirer. Are you still there?
Yeah, I just made you bigger.
All right, I'm so huge now, and I see nobody but me.
Okay, I'll turn it off.
Oh, good.
Keep going.
Because I'm shocked to talk to myself so closely. Anyway, this guy shows up at my door wanting to know about the paternity of my kid at my front door. And as a new mother, I became so enraged and so violated that I screamed at him and chased him off my property. It was during that time, right around that period, that Princess Diana was killed in the car chase by the paparazzi. And it just sparked in me wanting to write about the paparazzi as an antagonist in a big star's life. Not that I was a big star, but I wanted to kind of combine Princess Diana with like a Lindsay Lohan, Demi Moore kind of figure who, Jackie was kind of a composite of a lot of different people, including me. And that was the germination of the story. I started it in a writing workshop, never having written, in fiction before. I mean, I had written an Empty Nest script, I had written a screenplay, but it was really just something that, I started tinkering with and couldn't put down. And so every few years I'd come back to it and put it away. And then I had more children and I put it away for 10 years and then came back to it. But the desire to write that story that I feel had not been written before. The closest I've read to this story, has anyone else read Prince Harry's book, Spare?
No, but I want to.
It's fascinating. And I find him very interesting, and it's such a raw tell. But, when he writes, I get chills, when he writes about what they did to his mother, and then as he grew up, what they did to him and to his wife. I mean, this is why, for me, it's such a juicy topic. What price fame? What price fame? Is that, does that have to come with the deal of wanting to be a performer or wanting to be in the public eye? So that's where the inspiration came from.
Do you get asked a lot, are you Jackie, or how much of you is part of Jackie?
Well, my humor is Jackie, I mean, you can't, I didn't want to write a book about a girl in a coma in the hospital fighting for her life and not make it funny. Otherwise it's like, I die already. So I had to keep it, with a skewed, cynical but funny point of view, so that part of her is me. The childhood is very much my childhood. I grew up, in the Malibu colony. My mother was an actress there, and the father and the father and the mother of Jackie are nothing like my father and mother. They were based on some people I knew as a child in the colony. So the childhood is very accessible to me at that time.
We have a question in the chat from Jennifer. She says, "Hi, Dinah, love the book. In it, you bounce back and forth in time. Has the chronological order of the story been the same since the earlier drafts?"
Oh, what an amazing question. Jennifer must be a writer. No, it went through many, many drafts of the chronic of doing it uh, in straight chronological order. And there were drafts where I considered just writing Jackie's story without having the hospital. Um, and I kind of puzzled it together as I went along to find what the emotional story was. So the character arc had to track more than the chronological time had to track. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Was it difficult to write these scenes where she's in a coma and responding to or hearing things around her in a way that felt legitimate and real? Like, how did you?
Yeah, well, it's a legitimate question because there is, no such thing as a narrator in a coma, although I've been told that there are people in comas who are aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
But I had to make the device work early. And very early in the book, I say something like, this knowing that I have when I'm in the coma. When Jackie's in the coma, this knowing I have is like a series of like a film strip going by. This knowing is not something that they talk about in medical journals, probably because those who have it don't live to tell the tale. So I invented the device so that I could do it this way. I made it up.
Convincingly so, I think it works.
Honestly, it's kind of reminiscent of like astral projection.
Of what?
Astral projection or like seeing.
Yeah. Well, they say you have an out of body experience when you're dying. And I have been told by former patients in comas that they were completely aware of the conversations going on around them. Jackie just might be a little more aware.
Writers always get asked about their writing process. And I know you worked on this for many, many years, so you might not have honed in on one answer to that question, but was it tough for you to be so used to the collaborative medium of acting to then go into writing a novel, which is a very solitary?
It's still tough for me. I still find it hard to be alone and writing. Once I'm in, then I'm not conscious of the fact that it's uncomfortable to be so solitary. But whenever I walk into I have a little office in the back of where our garage is, and that's good because there's, no laundry or anything to distract me. But every time I walk in, I'm like, oh God, I've got to sit down. And, it just takes me like a while to bridge into the mindset because I am by nature very collaborative. My favorite part of writing the book was when I got an editor and we could talk about it and she would give me notes and I could bring it back to her and there was feedback back and forth because, when you're writing, you don't have an audience and I like an audience. I love the give and take of the exchange.
We have another question in the chat from Amy. What scene did you begin with when you began the story? And did most of the scenes you started writing in your class make it to the final book?
I started in the hospital. The very first scene of the book now is Brett proposing to Jackie and the paparazzi storming in and Jackie's accident. That came in the very last draft. I decided that it was better to chase that story throughout the book, to have the accident up front than to keep trying to explain it as I was writing along. And it also, my mother said to me when she read an early draft, she said, it needs a sexy opening. So I thought, you're right. It really does need a sexier opening. And so writing the paparazzi bursting in and Brett on bended knee proposing and the violence with the romance. And I thought, well, it's sexy enough, you know.
If any of y'all have questions, just feel free to ask them out loud.
Just shout them out.
Here's one. Did you have a favorite scene? I know you talked about that particular scene being added in last, but is there a part of the book that was, you were just so into writing it?
The Hawaii section.
Mhm.
There's 3 long sections in Hawaii, and I've spent a lot of time in Kauai over many years, starting when I was a young teenager, and it's a very, very special place to me, and I loved taking Jackie there and having her try to resist the beauty of the surroundings and the sweetness of the air and the warmth of the water while she's fighting, to not fall under her mother's spell again. And that was really interesting for me to play with. And also the relationship with this, half sister that she suddenly discovers, and how awkward and painful that was. I loved writing the Hawaii section. That was a joy. And I still think in many ways for me, it's the heart of the book.
Well, that's what she just said was her favorite part of the book.
Yeah,
too.
my favorite.
Really?
That was
Yeah.
my favorite part, yeah.
Yeah.
You had an interesting question before we started about, well, go ahead.
I was just curious, most writers that I've heard have a distinct opinion about whether they want their books turned into movies or television movies, or not. And I just wondered how you felt about that. Do you think you'd have to give up a lot of control, or
I don't care. Give me the check. I'm ready. Oh, please, God. Oh, yes. Butcher it is what I say. No, I think if I were so lucky as to have somebody want to make a limited series or a movie of the piece, I would love nothing more than to see somebody transform it into a visual medium, because it's a very visual book. I mean, you see, I write it in kind of fake screenplay form, because for Jackie's world, her whole life has been show business, and she thinks in that medium. And so, I would love to see that portrayed. And, I just recorded the audible of this book. And when I first started recording it, they had asked me to do it, the editor and distributor in LA. They, said, record the book. So I sat down to do it, and I didn't have the chops. It's not my talent to do voices. I can do my voice. I can do Jackie. I can do the narration. I can do Jackie's character, but to play 100 other characters and blip and blop and back and forth, and then back to Jackie in a coma and Jackie. I just was in tears. And so what I decided to do was, I live, in a little island off Seattle, and we have a very creative community here. And there's a great community theater where I've taught and directed, and I have tons of students on the island, acting students. So I brought in 10 and I gave them all roles. And we went into a little media studio on the island that's available. And we recorded the whole book there. It was like, like say we were like Led Zeppelin recording our whole album in our garage. That's what it felt like. It was like, this is so raw and cool. And we recorded this piece that took on its own life in this new medium. So that, and playing, by the way, the Hawaii scenes in the audible are also my favorite. I found a little girl to play the little sister who is extraordinary. So yeah, so to bust it open into another medium would be great. Even if they didn't let me have my say, I wouldn't care. I care a little.
I think you write beautifully. Your your descriptions of the environment you really get the feeling of the place, I think, and it differentiates between the place that you are, between hospital and the beach and Hawaii, and the other thing, I think you have marvelous word choice. I mean, towards the end of the book, I had to laugh. You talk about Jackie's mom having a pocketbook. And not too long ago, my friend was in from Texas and we were talking about handbags and, tote bags and everything else. And she looked at me, she said, does anybody ever talk about pocketbooks anymore?
Yeah. Well, I grew up on pocketbooks, so yeah, that's funny.
Would you take an on-screen role in the film if they turned it into one or a series? I know you kind of stepped away from.
I don't like to act anymore. I loved acting the Audible because I didn't have to wear any makeup. There was no mirror. It was so unself-conscious. I didn't have to memorize, and I wasn't feeling, and I didn't have ego vanity. When I act, I don't like myself as much as an actor, as a person, because all my ego and vanity and insecurity and neuroses and nerves, I'm so nervous all the time. And I just, it's really nice to have given that up, and to just be, whoever I am, with all my flaws, and not be picking at myself, as an
You
old
turn into Carol Weston, basically.
Totally. But not to be picking at myself. I mean, you see guys, what they do to older actresses, why everybody's had so much work done to their faces, and then they're attacked for the work, or they're attacked for gaining weight. And I'm susceptible to that kind of criticism. It hurts my feelings, so I'm glad to not be acting. Although I will say this, the one role I think I would come out of retirement for, were they ever to offer it to me, is if they did a remake of The Golden Girls. Because first of all, I'd love to play an old lady, because then who cares, right? They're gonna, you put on a gray wig and your boobies are saggy and it's fun, and and you can work with it. But to have to be, semi-attractive and so that's my spiel.
I was honestly wondering if, like, say this was turned into like a movie adaptation or something like that, if there's anyone you have in mind that you would ideally want to play Jackie.
Oh, it's such a good question. I've seen over, the last few years, I've seen some really talented, young women. Mae Whitman would be a great Jackie. Do you know who Mae is? She's a fabulous young actress. I did a series with her before I left Los Angeles. Alia Shawkat also.
Series cut short far too soon.
Huh?
It was a series cut short far too soon.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, it was a great series. But there are so many young women that would be good Jackies, today. Yeah. But I don't know any. I read People magazine. I don't know who anybody is anymore. No, I mean, lately I've been reading. I do like to read a little gossip. I do have a lower self. And sometimes I read like People and Page 6, and I'm like, can you tell me who Tom Sandoval is? Who is that? He's like, everything's about Tom Sandoval. He's on some reality show, Vanderpump something. I don't know who anybody is.
I have a question about the Audible. Well, I have two questions. First, when does that come out? Do you know yet?
It'll be about a month. It's being edited now. It sounds great.
Here's something I had wondered about writers who then, produce the Audible version. Did you find things you wish you could change?
I did change them.
Did you? Okay. So
Yeah,
you can
I
change.
did. It was great. I said to the distributor, I said, what if there's something goes, it's your book, do whatever you want. I was like, really? I can just change it if I want? He said, yeah, go ahead, change it. So I did. I did a little editing here, a little tweaking there, threw in a new line there. Yeah, it was freedom. It was so much fun. Of course, once I did the Audible, I wished I could go back and, change the whole book, but that I can't do.
Was your
I didn't
public,
change much. I mean, it was really just little things here and there, but stuff that came up and, found a lot of typos in the book too, doing the Audible. It was like, oh my God, how did we miss this? But
what was your publication process like? Was it a long road to get the book actually on shelves?
well, I started sending it out. I had a draft about, I don't know, 5 years ago that I sent out to big publishers and didn't get in. I got a lot of very sweet rejection letters. Uh, and then I put it away again because I just couldn't. I just rejection's hard. I put it away again, and then I ride horses, and I had an accident with one of my horses. Uh, we were on the ground. I was walking her, and she kicked my leg out from under me and shattered my leg. This was 3 years ago. And so I was completely down. I mean, there was nothing else. There was nothing I could do but lie around with my leg up for like 5 months. And you know, how when you have unfinished things that you keep knowing you have to finish, but you don't want to because it's hard. So I thought, oh, I got to take the book out and do another draft and send it out again. And that's what I did. I did another draft. I this time I looked up all the independent publishers, the small presses, and I sent it out, and I immediately got 2 offers to publish. And it was like amazing, you know. And then I worked with the editor for about a year, a wonderful editor, Myra Fiacco, very talented. And then it came out. That was it.
Do you plan to write more?
I'm writing. I may not be writing a novel. I think I'm writing a play, but I've never written a play. So I'm learning to write a play just like I learned to write a novel while I'm writing. I'm in a couple of workshops, and I find the play form easier because, even with Jackie, I tend to lean into dialogue very easily. And so, yeah, I'm writing. But I don't know if I have a couple of drafts of a couple of other novels, but I'm more interested in this piece I'm writing now.
I don't know how much time you have, but I know you said you were cool if people wanted to ask you,
Oh yeah, go.
questions.
I
Anybody?
got nothing. No one's home. I don't have to make dinner yet. It's all
I have a question, not about show business, but did you have any books or authors that you read while you were writing that helped you in your writing process?
I read a lot.
Yeah.
I read a lot. I can't tell you that there were some authors I couldn't read because they were so good I would just get intimidated and give up. It's like when I was 15 and I heard Joni Mitchell for the first time, and then I threw away my guitar because it was like, why try? You know what I mean? It's like that. I have to be careful with my creative process because I'm so willing to think I'm bad at it. You know what I'm saying? But I read pretty voraciously, all sorts of different things. I'm reading a novel now that probably would all love called Hello, Beautiful. It's a bestseller right now. And I just read Barbara Kingsolver's novel. Oh, have you read this, Demon Copperhead?
Copperhead
Oh,
is amazing.
God, what a masterpiece.
My mother grew up in the part of Virginia that it's set in.
Oh,
Oh, I've been there before.
it's stunning. It's stunning. But I will tell you, when I was deep into the drafts with Jackie, when I was doing that final year of editing and really deep into it, I didn't read. I watched a lot of television because I couldn't afford to have another voice in my head other than my own.
Mhm. Who else has one?
By the way, I'm completely uneducated. I'm a dropout. That's what Jackie and I have in common. I was a juvenile delinquent. I'm totally serious. you know, everything I've learned on the job, it's not, I don't recommend it. 'Cause there are huge gaps in my education, or lack of education. But I say this because, if there's a story that you have in you that you think you need to get out of your system, the way I felt I needed to get this out of my system, as hard as it was, write it. Write it. You don't have to have been an English major, you know. You don't have to have, time and, you know, lots of training and workshops. It was the same with acting. That's another thing I had in common with Jackie, is I felt like a fraud as a young actress because I really was a screw up. I ditched classes. I didn't like acting class, but I liked working. I liked being on the job.
Do you have
And
a favorite role of all the ones you've played? Is that a hard question?
it changes. Um, um, you know, I guess, I think the best role I was ever given was the role in Ordinary People. I played Timmy Hutton's friend. I think the character's name was Karen. It was a great role. It was a very short scene, one scene, but it was the juiciest of probably any role I've ever had. My favorite character to play was Carol Weston in Empty Nest because it was so playful and I could use all the disgusting parts of myself, and just like really invest in them and then like be healthy when it was, the day's work was over. I mean, it was really fun. And Christy McNichol and I had such a great time working together, and Richard Mulligan. We really had a blast for 7 years. We were so lucky. We were so lucky to have that.
I've asked you a lot of empty nest questions over the years at this point, but here's one I've never asked. Was there ever
Uh-oh.
a storyline or something for Carol that you wish they would have done and they just never did do?
Well, they pretty much flushed out that character. Uh, yeah, I do remember going to the writers in my the first couple of years, asking them to write me something, meaty, and they were just like, yeah, go act, you know. Um, but no, I think they really explored everything. I will say that in the first 3 years of the show, I thought were great for me. And Christy was on all those 3 years, and our characters were really good foils for each other. And that's how Susan Harris, the creator, had created that family, was for Barbara and Carol to always be, this triangle with their father, always vying for attention, competing with each other. Once Christy left the show, I felt like the writers really, went to shtick. I don't know if you know what shtick is. It's a Yiddish word for like slapstick. And so Carol's humor became more obvious, less interesting, less layered. It was just like, bump jokes. And that was hard for me. And so I tried to channel Lucille Ball as much as I could and just throw myself into whatever they gave me. Whatever stuff they wanted me to do. I just, it was my job. But I missed the earlier years.
You just answered the question that I was going to ask, is what do you do as an actor when you're given material that, you maybe don't really believe in or aren't really excited about, but you're contractually obligated to perform?
It's just like in marriage, Matt. You got to pick your battles. No, it really, I mean, there was stuff that I battled on, where I went to the writer's room and said, not doing it. And then there was other stuff that went, it's a pill, but I'll swallow it, um, uh, and because, for you got to always consider the good of the team, You know, you got to be a team player. It's a lot of people involved in a production. And you can't just be a sourpuss and dragging people down because, you know, you're not happy with, you know, your particular line that day, you know. Those were lessons for me that I learned on that show. I learned a lot, especially from Richard, who was a great captain.
We have another question in the chat from Jennifer. She says, so sad to hear about the passing of Tina Turner today. I don't know if you've heard that.
Yes. Oh, want to hear a really funny story though?
Well, that might be what she's asking you. She understands you have a very interesting acting class story involving Tina Turner.
Yes, I must have told it somewhere.
I don't know.
Yes, I got to be acting partners, scene partners with Tina Turner way back when I was like, I must have been 20, 19 or 20. I was in this acting class and all these, you know, people who became big stars later, Jeff Goldblum, Sean Penn, Michelle Pfeiffer, that we all studied with this one great teacher in Los Angeles. Well, I ditched class a lot, but I showed up. And when I showed up, Peggy, our teacher, Tina Turner had just split up with Ike. And she came to class with 2 Doberman pinchers on leashes. I swear to you. And Peggy said to her, you can't bring the dogs to class. And so Tina had the dogs taken back out by her assistant. And she assigned me to do a scene with Tina Turner. And the scene she assigned us, oh God, was from a play called I Am a Camera, which is what the movie Cabaret was based on. And so she had me playing the Sally Bowles crazy kind of me character. And she assigned Tina, God only knows why, the quiet Jewish girl. To this day, Peggy's not around anymore, but to this day, I'd love to ask her, was she just fucking with us? You know, I mean, we did this scene together. It was just hysterical. And yeah, so I got to be scene partners with Tina Turner. God bless her.
I mean, we have a Pink Lady in the room. Do you have any fun Grease stories to share?
Always. Lots of fun Grease stories to share. What do you want to know?
Anybody got a Grease question?
Well, I know Matt had said that you guys had talked previously that like one of your favorite scenes was the like Sandra Dee sleepover.
That's my favorite. That was my favorite scene to act in. Absolutely. Because Grease was my first movie. I was terrified. I mean, first of all, dancing, I'm not a dancer. If you see mostly in the movie, they're hiding behind other dancers. And, you know, John Travolta, who was so hot at the time, professionally and sexually, like in the room, you would tremble. I'm not kidding you, or I don't think it was just me, but it was like, oh my, you know, it was so much. And then Stockard, who was like such the consummate, you know, actress. And anyway, I was pretty scared. You know, I didn't show it in the character, but my Dinah self was terrified all the time, except during Sandra Dee, where we just all got so silly and getting fake drunk and torturing Olivia as Sandy, you know, with piercing her ears and getting her drunk. It just felt like real life to me. You know, and Olivia in real life, God bless her, was such a darling. I mean, she was such a good girl, really a good girl, as kind and nice and sweet. And we really all kind of were bad girls. I mean, our real selves. So maybe not Dee Dee so much, but Jamie and Stockard and I. And so it was like really falling into a reality that we could just giggle and play and sing. And I think it shows in the movie. We're so comfortable.
And I've been thinking about it. If that's like your favorite scene, what is not like your worst like memory, but what is like a thing or some things that like irritated you or like was like a quirk that like everyone like kind of like was bothered by on set or something like
Oh,
that?
it's a good question. Well, doing the dance scenes, the big dance, the what's it called? It's not a prom, whatever it was,
Yeah.
the big dance event in
Yeah,
the
that's what they-
gymnasium. It was a very hard shoot because it was sweltering outside and there was very little cooling in the gym. And we were in there. I think Michael Tucci actually passed out one of those days. He played Sonny, my boyfriend. So that was hard, but there were nobody fought. I mean, it was really like being in camp for 3 months, it really was. I mean, Jeff Conaway, who played Kaniki, he was getting all the action. His trailer was rocking. Not me. Naming names. John and Olivia were not sleeping together, contrary to rumor. But everybody, the dancers were so extraordinary and they had their own, social thing going on. And we really all just, we all got along really well. In fact, we still see each other. We've been doing Grease autograph signings. We did one in Liverpool last year, which was so cool. I mean, we all went to Liverpool and did Comic-Con. Those of us who are still, around, not John, because he's too big a star, but the Pink Ladies and the T-Birds, and we're going to Scotland in October. And so, and we're all in touch on Facebook and emails all the time. We're still very close.
Thank you.
I know one of our folks is a big Child's Play fan. Do you have any
Right. Yeah.
fun stories to tell? Yeah, you can see her.
Yes, I am Chucky's first victim, and I'm still here. Yeah. I guess that's why they can't bring me back.
What was that picture, that movie like to film? I'm sorry, you were saying.
Well, I was gonna say, I was telling Matt, you were actually the one, your character found the Chucky doll,
Oh yeah,
or the
that's
mom.
right.
So
See,
it was all your
I
fault.
don't remember anything. These are like, I mean, I'm like, oh yeah, right, I did. I had to be reminded what my character's name was this year because I didn't remember. I was Aunt Maggie. Yeah, I think I only shot for like a week and a half. It was very cold in Chicago, and it was fun. Everybody was really nice. I loved acting, horror film acting, because I'd never done that before. It was like, what's around the corner? No, everything's okay. Playing those horror film beats is really a blast. I had a really good time.
I mean, I don't want to keep you longer than we need to. Does anybody else have any final questions? Same goes for you on Zoom. Drop them into the Q&A real quick. We've had some very good questions, though. I didn't know that
Very good. So much fun. Very good. I'm so glad you're all coming to the bookstore and reading and getting together to discuss material. It's such a great thing to do. It's so good that you're doing this, Matt, that you've opened this up.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Michelle says, such a great talk. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You should come to West Virginia and visit. It's a beautiful state.
It is really
I was once in West Virginia.
Okay.
My brother, who's no longer with us, got married in West Virginia. He lived there. Can't remember the name of the town he lived in, but he was in West Virginia, and it is very beautiful. It looks a little like here, and in the Northwest, a lot of
yeah.
beautiful trees. Yeah.
What was he doing living here?
It's too long a story. Yeah, I don't want to know.
Julie McCullough, who was at the Golden Con, lives here now. That's
Who?
Julie McCullough, who was one of the actors from
Oh
Golden.
yeah. Oh, Julie. Yeah. Oh yeah. Huh. That's interesting. Does Park live in West Virginia? No, she lives in Tennessee, I think. Park overall.
But she could fit in in West Virginia.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Thank
I,
God she's legal.
I actually follow her on Facebook and really enjoy her posts. She's pretty funny.
She, well, I follow her and Marsha Warfield too. These are both people from Empty
Mhm.
Nest. Two very liberal women, but who express those views extraordinarily differently.
Well, maybe I'll follow Marcia and see what she's saying.
We have another thank you. This has been great from Amy in the chat. So I think that's about all. Dinah, thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thanks for showing up and reading Jackie Gold. I'm so excited. And if you have friends who are Audible people, please pass on that it'll be in a month, it'll be on Audible and
Letting my mom know.
Yeah. I want to
super
listen to that
fun.
one too.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's super cool.
All right. Well, thanks. It's good to see you.
Bye. See you soon. Bye, Matt. Thank you.
See you.